Hello, welcome to Opentoonz tutorial. This is Snevitz. Feel free to subscribe to my channel for other Opentoonz tutorials and various animations. What I wanted to talk to today is character rigging, particularly with the movements of if you have a character and you want to move and rotate the arm movements in the hand. And what I've done here is I've created 3 separate columns. These are part of the vector level. And you can do this by something called centers and also something called inverse kinematics. So let's start out with centers. So basically what happens is in the drawings, you have the upper arm here, and each drawing basically is on a separate layer. Okay, so they're not connected right now. I've made 3 separate drawings. So with the animate tool, I can move this, and it moves separately. So what we want to do is we want to accomplish making these connected together so that they work and they rotate and so forth. And we do this by centers. Okay, so I'm going to kind of get this back into position. I'm going to put the hand, and you want to make sure you overlap a little bit because of the pivot points that you'd like to have. Let's put that upper arm and let's overlap that just a bit. So the next thing we want to do is there's something called centers, and that creates a link between the hand, the lower arm, and the upper arm. And you can find that by clicking on the animate tool, and it defaults to position. So let's click down here. And here's center. So we want for the upper arm, we typically want the shoulder to be the pivot point. So we've got that in the correct place. Let's go to the lower arm. Let's get that right at the corner of the elbow there. There we go. And now for the hand. Okay. And this is where it gets tricky because sometimes the center is not where it's supposed to be, so we have to drag it over to you. I try to get it definitely right at the wrist, where the wrist would be. There we go. Now, these should be linked, so let's test this out. So you'll see very quickly, I'm able to rotate the hand here. And it's connected. Very quickly, you'll see that there's a problem. The lower arm is connected to the upper arm, but not the hand when you rotate it. So we solve this problem by going into something called the schematic. So let's position the lower arm so it intersects with the wrist and the hand. And I want to rotate back. Okay. So you click on Windows. So in order to fully link the upper arm, which is column 1, to link the lower arm, column 2, and to link the hand, column 3, it's not enough to have centers. You have to also link these as parent-child nodes in the schematic. So what you do is you go to the top and you left-click on Windows. You go down to the schematic. You click there. And then here we have the schematic, and I'm going to make the window a little smaller here. So by default, everything here is connected to the table as the parent node. And then you have the camera. By default, every schematic has a table and a camera. So right now, the upper arm, column 1, lower arm, column 2, and hand, column 3, are all parent nodes, sorry, child nodes. So what we want to do is we want to make the upper arm the parent of the lower arm. And what we do here is, if you see in the schematic, you have a blue circle and a red circle. And this is how you link and make the lower arm the child of the upper arm. So let's do this. You have to left click on the blue circle and drag it to the red circle. And sometimes what that does is, you can see here in the viewer that it's out of place. So we'll go back and fix that. Now we want to make the hand, column 3, the child node to the parent node of the lower arm. So this will fix our problem, but then we have to go back into the basic window and fix that. So now we have column 3 rotation. So what we want to do is we want to get to the lower arm position, and let's raise that up and put it back at the intersection of where we want it. Go to the hand, column 3, raise that up to the intersection of the wrist where the center is. Now we need to double check our centers. Okay, now that's pretty much where we want it. Let's kind of rotate it. Okay, now we should not have any issues with the hand leaving the lower arm or the lower arm leaving the upper arm when we rotate. Now let's test that. Let's go to column 2, lower arm, and let's try to rotate. Yep, see now the hand is connected to the lower arm and it's rotating and it's not leaving. This is exactly what we want. And then we go to column 1, rotation. Now, because column 1 is the upper arm is the parent of the 2 child nodes. The parent node is the upper arm to the child nodes of lower arm and child node of hand. Everything will be connected. So even if you position, and this is where you have to be careful, when you position, when you move, you can only move the upper arm, column 1. Okay. And here's what happens, you got to be careful of, is when you go to the lower arm and you're in position, if you move it, it's going to move off the upper arm and it's only going to be with the hand because it's the child. Okay, that's where you have to be careful of sometimes. So let's put that back into place. Double check our center. Rotation. Looks good. So that's centers in a nutshell. There is also another way to move an arm or leg or body parts, and it's called inverse kinematics. There's forward kinematics, which is not available on Opentoonz, which is where you have the parent node controlling all of the child nodes, and this is used in the development of character animation, rigging, and various video game forms, if you will. Inverse kinematics, which is an option of the skeleton tool, which we can go into just a bit here. Inverse kinematics is basically where the child node controls the motion of the parented nodes, and it's just another way to kind of connect and establish a pivot point, which is what centers also do. And let's just kind of take a look at that really quick. So let's go to the skeleton tool on the toolbar. It looks like a little kind of a yellow-orange boomerang. We left click on that, and that brings us up to animate. So what we want to do is build skeleton. So you have a yellow dot and you have a gray box square. The yellow dot is what's considered the pivot point, and the gray square is the connected point if you want to link one section to another section. And so because we already have centers, we really can't do too much here, but I just kind of wanted to show you another option. So let's set this pivot point just for today's teaching over here right at the wrist. And then let's take the, let's link that, and see we're already kind of establishing some issues here. So, but as you can see, now, again, this is just another way to link, you know, body parts and so forth. So, again, this is the pivot point. We can actually establish it here, and then of course we have the square over here. So let's take the square. So, anyways, it's just a different way of establishing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go back into the schematic, and I am going to unlink the parent node to the two child nodes and have them become dependent upon the table again. And maybe that will help establish a better example. So let me get out of this real quick. And let's try to do the inverse kinematics option with the skeleton tool again. So again, this is considered the skeleton tool, and the yellow dot is the pivot point. So wherever you want to set the pivot point, and we'll release that here, and then we will set we want to link this to column B. Okay, so for some reason it doesn't want to do that. Okay, anyways. Okay, this doesn't seem to be working too well. Let's click on it again. Okay. It takes a while to get used to. The easier way may just be to do the centers, and then make sure that they're parented correctly. But I just wanted to show you a couple different options with the skeleton tool in the inverse kinematics, where the child nodes actually control the movements. If you move the hand, it's going to move the lower arm, which is going to in turn move the upper arm and so forth. But again, just two options to kind of move here. So again, if you like this video, please comment, subscribe at Snevitz, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.